Welcome back to Shift Your Shit, Kill Your Fear. My name is Mariel, and we are here to get you more free and clear. And today I have a really special guest that's a little different than what I bring, but I really felt so pulled to get this incredible man here and to share the impact he has, because at a soul level, we are here to do things that make sense to us and to be on the noise of the world, to create. We're here to create things, and a lot of times our ego can get in the way, which is a very self-centered me, versus the soul is here for the we. And I have Steve here today that is such about the we, and the work that he is doing is so impactful and powerful and is near and dear to my heart and soul, with working with students on the spectrum and bringing them together in a way that they can experience who they really are and feel heard and seen, which is my mission here for all that are listening. I know Steve's as well, is to have people feel heard and seen, and not that they have disabilities or things wrong with them, but that it's ways, superpowers for them to be more themselves and to feel the freedom within, so without. And Steve creates space, I'm going to have him talk in a moment, create spaces for students to feel this when maybe they've never felt it before or felt quite the opposite. And so what this does, beyond even just bringing students together with this experience that he'll share, it's actually having them reprogram their mind in a way, in a sneaky way, that there is space for them. They are accepted. They are allowed, when they've had a subconscious programming in their mind, probably since childhood, that they didn't belong. And so I'm so grateful to have Steve here and to share your story and your mission, and that I intend that everyone listening, even if you don't have a student on the spectrum or know someone, maybe you feel like you're on the spectrum, because I think we all are, that something in this is going to remind you of who you really are and help you continue to follow your soul, even when the noise and the messagings around you tell you different. So Steve, thank you so much for being here. Anything that you'd like to share with us about what got you into this work, and explain what this work is, because it's truly profound and beautiful what you do and what you be.
Well, I'll try to be long story long or long story short as possible. This is year number 34, and what we do is we serve adults and children with autism and special needs, and our vehicle is sports camps and clinics. So mainly basketball, soccer, football, but mainly basketball. And 34 years. I started it 34 years ago. I was much better looking then, much younger then. And we've grown significantly over the years, from just kind of one camp to multiple camps throughout the nation, throughout the world. We're in other countries as well. And there's several things that we do, and I'm not sure who our audience is. If you're got someone on the spectrum, or you're on the spectrum, you have a different perspective. I really want to reach out to those of you that don't have a family member in the spectrum like me. I don't have anyone with special needs in my family, so it's unique, kind of how I started, and it's a whole different story. But what we try to do is a few things. One, we try to give respite time to families that have individuals with special needs. We know that a lot more effort and energy and money goes involved in this. And I use the term as we're a cog in the wheel. And a wheel with one or two or three cogs is not very strong. But if we have multiple cogs, maybe we have a faith-based cog, a synagogue, a chapel, a cathedral, a temple, whatever it might be, that's helpful. We have immediate family, that's a cog in the wheel, maybe some distant family, some neighbors, school, government, and we see how these cogs in the wheel give strength to these individuals. It doesn't take a lot, but we try to give these individuals the same opportunity to learn through sport that the rest of us had. And I say sport, it could be drama or singing or something like that, but you kind of learn how to fail. You'll learn accountability, responsibility, showing up on time, working with the coach. And when we talk about inclusion, one of the things that people don't understand is, when we talk about inclusion, you also need to be included on pulling your own weight, being accountable. You can't expect for everyone to do everything for you. And that's kind of unique experience. Over 34 years, it's really changed, because really, I was the only guy that was talking about inclusion. And we developed unified concepts of sports back then. And I had a lot of pushback from both sides. Families that had individual special needs thought their kids were made of crystal and needed extra everything, and don't criticize them and don't hold them accountable and all that kind of stuff. And then on the other side, we had those that weren't in that world. They're like, whoa, I don't want to catch Down syndrome, or I don't want to catch autism. Wait, whoa, I don't, and of course that's changed drastically. But, that's kind of what we do. It's a lot of fun, but I'm kind of the old school coach when I see these guys. It's quit whining, quit boobing. Where are you working? Whether it's an hour a week or an hour a month. We really try to meet individuals where they're at. And in the world of autism and the spectrum, very, very different. Very different. We're all about I love you, and we're big into hugging and high-fiving. And sometimes that works for some people, and sometimes that's not so good for others. And so we try to push the boundary a little bit to make them feel a little bit more comfortable rather than the rest of the world adapting to you. It's like you have to be accountable for your own needs. Let's be open about them, but let's see if we need to adjust a little bit, move to the little middle a little bit more, and work on those things. So that's kind of what we're about. We do it in a lot of ways. I appreciate you being on. We're so excited. We love sharing our story and what we do, and we want people to jump on board with us. What other questions do you have for me? Am I missing anything? Do you want to get into other details? Talk to me.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think, the preface of everything that we create, if we really think about, the beginning of it was what? It was the one person. And Steve, that is what beyond what you do, it's really what you be, because something I noticed really potently about you when I first met you is that you have this really beautiful balance of, like the hugging, high-fiving, like kind, gentle, kind of like big bear, love, but also this like, let's get real and let's move through, your fears or your limitations or, and it's really a beautiful dance that you hold so well that I think many of us want to be able to be kind of have that harmony with knowing even in ourselves, like when to have boundaries with ourselves versus when to be a little bit more loving but it's all the same, but it's knowing how and when to have that dialogue and what dialogue that is. And so you show and invite these students and the families really, when you're working with students, you're working with their families, right? So really being able to
Right.
help them grow their own independence, individuality, identity that's going to serve them, that they can be a part of a community and not isolate or not feel, again, on their own with these things. This is the time and space you create for people to come together and realize they're never alone. They're all as one, and that they can still learn so many things. And what I love, Steve, is that you bring this as play. At a subconscious level, for those listening, we love the mind stuff. At a subconscious level, when you get into play, you increase learning. It's about 10-15 times more than you were just like if you read a book. Or so it's working with your whole mind and body. And so when it's just, we could say basketball or any sport, it's really allowing them to learn through play, which is such a powerful thing in your nervous system, in your regulation, in your identity. So Steve, I love that you bring that to it as well. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we love the partnership part of it. At first I was just thinking I was serving the special needs community as a whole, which is true. But I think even more important is the volunteers that come. So many of them don't know what to expect. And they show up for the first time. They really don't know what's going on. And we really try to create the atmosphere of Jimmy or Susie is not my special needs friend with autism or what. He's just my friend. And it's a totally different concept. And if we can get more people to understand that concept, and also as we become parents, we have these young children, and the opportunities are endless. Which one's going to be the star on the quarterback? Which one's going to be lead in the musical? Which one's going to be playing the trumpet? How many kids are they going to? Is it going to be some famous person? And you have all these fantasies. And milestones are very different for those families that have special needs. The milestones are very, very different. And depending on the severity of them, but a lot of these individuals are never going to be able to live completely independent. And none of them, I mean, some of them are never going to get married. They're never going to bear children. Some of them are not going to be able to drive. And so, from a parent standpoint, I had a conversation with a lady. If I can share this with you, it's a little bit long. I was in Mexico doing an event, doing something totally not related. And I looked over to my left, and there was a woman there that had a child, probably 5 or 6 years of age. By the way, our individuals start about 5 or 6. Our oldest participants are in their 70s, believe it or not. And I looked over and I could see this individual there with special needs, a little bit of cerebral palsy, young, maybe 5 or 6, nonverbal. And I reached out and, oh my gosh, I said, is it okay? And I spoke to this young guy named Otto. He was nonverbal and had a conversation in the way that I do. And I noticed the mom was crying. And she said, no one has ever spoken to my son before. They always talk to the parent. And I asked her, would it be okay if I touched your son? And I know he likes being stroked. I could tell. And she just wept. She said, no one has ever done this. And we got some great programs going on in Puerto Vallarta. We actually got some land. We're going to be building a facility down there that's an inclusive facility, gymnasium for all these kinds of things. Anyways, we've got the land and we're really excited about it. But she was just in awe. And to get to my point is that she's a little angry. She's sad. She's a little bit jealous. And these are conversations that I'm very familiar with. And she said, how do you know these things? And I was able to talk about it. She was able to talk about it openly. And then afterwards she said, thank you so much. You're really the first person that, and I'm not sure that's necessarily true, but in her thought at that moment, it was a wonderful connection. That's what we're more about. Because there's only one of me, but if we can all do that in our own way, whether it's through music or dance or art or sports, which of course is always the best, but we know that's not for everyone. And the connection is amazing. I've had some moms that have come up to me that are a little angry and they said, I can't believe Samantha hugged you. She hasn't hugged me in 3 years. and it's good therapy. And so it's a wonderful experience. And I've got this, I've got a whole group of friends that are wonderful people. And they have a name. They're called my someday friends. Because for 20 years, they said, someday when things get slower, when I make more money, when my kids are gone, when my weekend's free, someday. And so here's my invitation to you, whatever it is you want to get involved in. Opportunities to serve others usually do not come in the most convenient time of our lives. Oftentimes in the most inconvenient time of our lives. I can testify to you, that's when you need to pump the brakes. Listen, all your, I don't know who's watching this, but every one of your employers gives you time off for things like this. They really do. And oftentimes they'll actually donate $10 per hour for the work that you donate. And it is life-changing. There's a wonderful musical that's well known. It's called The Music Man. For those of you that don't know about it, you've got Professor Harold Hill that's kind of a shyster sales guy, and he falls for this little very, very conservative librarian. And she's very conservative, and blah, blah, blah. You can imagine how this thing works out, this Hollywood script. And he says to her this, if you save up enough tomorrows, you end up with a bunch of empty yesterdays. And I can testify to you, balding and getting more wrinkles, there's no better time than now. It goes by so quick. Quit being a someday person. No more somedays. Now's the time to do it. Am I right? And
Amen. I see there's so much juice of what you just shared. And so I want to make sure that people really hear this because, when a child feels comfortable enough to go and hug up someone, what does that mean? It means that they can feel an unconditional love, a welcoming, a joy that Steve you just emanate. And you know, again, that many of these parents are experiencing, yeah, these deeper, like, why me, that my child, right, can't be this normal, or angry, upset. And as you know, not to say that that's not allowed and welcomed, but we get to also go, how is that impacting the people, not only our internal state, but the people outside of us. Our child, you know, they're very smart, and a lot of these nonverbal, and they have special powers that they can even send, you know, a lot of people on the spectrum are very sensitive, they can feel energy, they can know. So they know what their parent is feeling, even if they don't communicate it. And so when you know, again, when there can be work done, that, you know, it's so funny, Steve, that I notice, yes, the some days a lot of the work that I do at a subconscious level, people's subconscious will get in the way. That it's like, you know, well, I don't have the time for that. I don't, you know, like, oh, self-care, or, you know, all these different things. And it's so funny that I have an adult container that I work with people to do subconscious shifts, but also that I work with students on the spectrum, and we come together and we work on mindfulness, social, emotional. And what I find so interesting, my point to all of this, is that there is such a difference within each group, because when a parent is doing it for their child, there's a different energy of like, almost like I need to find this now for them. You know, the group, they're like, oh, like I want my child to have this. I will make it
Right.
work. I will figure, even financially, I'll figure it out, right? But when it comes to themselves, when I go, and do you want to work on that internal state, and you're being like, I don't have time, I don't have the money. It's very funny how our minds will decide along this. It's a really survival mode, right? Survival mode. The
Right.
only place that I feel like gets it right is in the airplane, where it's like, put your oxygen mask on first. And then your child. If you do it your child, you're gonna die, and you can't even help your child. But there is this background, you know, this backwards space. And so it's been funny holding these two groups and kind of seeing this common theme of what our deeper mind is doing for us, of not allowing. Because even to Steve, I can only imagine that people, you know, yeah, like the parents are benefiting from even that moment of reprieve, that maybe they can take care of themselves while their student is at these events or at these activities. And two, that even the volunteer, I always say too, everyone's a mirror of you. And so even if you're not on the spectrum, if you spend time with someone that is, you will see many things that you are similar more than you are
Oh,
different. We get it so backwards. I don't know them, I don't understand them. Spend time with someone and meet them where they're at. And just like what you did, you met them where they're at. I could tell this kid needed it, and then and how quickly you can bond with people when
so
you open up to possibilities. I always say connection over
yeah.
correction. Stop trying to correct people. Stop trying to fix people. Get
Well,
connected.
that I love what you said there, and we use that term all the time. Meet them where they're at, and you know, as a coach or as an entrepreneur or as a leader in business, there's sometimes manipulation that goes on. This is what I want. You're going to conform. You're going to adjust, and that might be right, because there's a certain pace that we have to take to get to where we're going. And as a coach, I've coached all over the world. There's an intensity there. The intensity is the same, but the difference is we meet them where they are, because and we move at the pace of their own success. So, and that looks very, very different. And when you do that, it becomes so much more fun, so much more rewarding, and the tension. You know, uh, fear is a great motivator to get things done. However, in our world of working with those with special needs, we don't want that. That adds stress to it.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
those are key things, and it makes such a difference. And to see parents see their children shine. I want to share something else with you that's kind of interesting. And I have to be careful how I speak to it, because I'm not a parent of a child with special needs. Been around them intensely for 34 years, but I've never lived with a child 24 hours a day that has whatever it has.
Absolutely.
And the pressure, you know, parents, oh, you must be, God only gives you what you can handle. God only gives them to special parents. They're tired of hearing that. You know, there's a whole group that's the truth about Down syndrome. And a lot of these parents are so tired of saying, oh, your kid's always happy. Yeah, but no, they're not. And if I could change it, I would. Now, not everyone, because what you learn and go through, but it's really hard. And to your point earlier, your survival mode. Your survivor mode. I went through a gal that I'm close with, 5-year-old child, a cerebral palsy, a lot of problems with doctors, and survive. I don't think she smiled in 4.5 years. It was tracheotomies and feeding tubes and keeping the baby alive, and listen how she's hearing, and listen how. I mean, I don't think she slept soundly for an hour in 4.5 years, and so much. I mean, no fun, no tennis, no golf, no working out, and it's pure survival mode. And if we can be that cog in the wheel, and I think one of the messages, like, be a cog, be a cog, be a cog, and hopefully you'll understand that. Be a cog. You don't have to be the axle. You don't have to, just be a cog. And if we can all be a cog, we can do so many great things and help relieve and connect. The other thing I was going to mention too, that we all need to be cognizant of, if we, and if my audience is all people that are on the spectrum, and they already know this, but I want to be careful how I speak about it, but if you have a child that has Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or in a wheelchair, nobody picks on those kids. They all get extra treatment. They all get treated totally differently, right? They just do. I've never been around, and it may happen or whatever, but I've never ever seen someone with Down syndrome get picked on. I see them become the homecoming king or the homecoming queen, or things like that. When you're on the spectrum, depending on where you're at, there's not usually a physical difference, and so you expect someone to act a certain way, and you see someone acting a way that might be abnormal. What the heck's wrong with that person? Why can't you raise your kid right? If it was my kid, I wouldn't let him get away with that. Do we have time for a story?
Yes, go ahead.
So I want to tell you, I'm at an airport, and there's an 8-year-old going nuts, screaming, yelling, obviously autistic, having an episode. She's just, mom, parents are embarrassed. They're from England. I got to know him a little bit, and I'm observing what's going on. And he's just having a complete meltdown, 20 minutes, yelling, screaming, sits down, lots of seats available. And I go sit down next to him. And just my presence kind of calmed him down a little bit, and didn't say anything. I might have said something to the guy and interacted, kind of distracted him, right? And got over whatever he was going through at that time. I understood. Other people might just see this as a terrible parents. They suck. The kid's wild. I'd smack him. I'd whatever it is. We all get that way. I get on the airplane, and he's getting on, and the lady behind him says, "Oh, don't worry about it, sweetheart. He'll wear himself out." And I made the comment, "Oh, no, he won't. He will wear everyone out on this airplane. He will go the whole," and he was fine on the airplane. And the family happened to sit next to me, and she said to me, "How do you know?" And I kind of gave her a little background. She goes, "I was wondering why this stranger went and sat next to my kid with all the other places to do." And I had a wonderful conversation with her. Um, Very hard on the marriage. She's not sure if their marriage is going to make it. Um, uh, needs guidance. She's reading some book that some guy suggested, that it's all parenting that is the problem, which said I'm not an expert, but I would totally disagree with that thing. And she said, "Oh, thank you." And I wrote her a little note that said, "I think your son's beautiful just the way he is, and God bless you, and I love you, and you're a great mom." And I know she was touched. I never talked to her after that. The point is, that lady was going through so much stress. It's such a difficult time. And let's be a cog in the wheel. Let's be a cog in the wheel. And
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Steve. And what I love so much, and I think you're realizing that, or we're all realizing that, especially, I mean, we all have stuff going on, but I think when you think of having a student on the spectrum, imagining how much that can take a toll in, yeah, marriages, relationships, your own inner dialogue about how you can best serve, again, like going back to that survival mode thing. of that, when you take that pause beyond that kid, there's stories and there's traumas and there's hardships, and that when we can just again also meet them where they're not just their kid, but them, they're a kid too. We're all in deeper mind and in soul, we're all kids. And so
All
really them
day,
being able to be heard and seen was a
all
common
day.
theme that Steve, that you shared, is that you're also having these parents feel seen, that they probably don't a lot in their life because
Yep.
again they're putting that auction mask on their child first every day, all day. And you're right, you can never relate to anyone and what they're going through all day, right? It's a 24/7 job. And how we can be more light and more in any moment, how we can bring kindness to the world. I mean, our world right now, we're shifting in big ways, that kindness is going to be the answer to all things above things, kindness
Well,
to yourself within, and then kindness out there. Any small act that you can do. It's my favorite thing to do, small acts throughout your day. I mean, you can be in a grocery store, leave a kind note somewhere, right? Give someone a compliment. It takes you 2 seconds. It's not like you have to go on a whole day adventure. And I want to end with a story, Steve. I'm not sure if you've heard this story, but I just wrote an article that I'll also share below, and all of Steve's information, you guys, I will be sharing below. Please get involved any way that you can. The work that he's doing is so impactful and incredible. If you probably have noticed his energy alone. But a story that I want to end with is, there was a boy named Ron. I forgot what year it was, but the parents had done so many things. Their boy was young and was, laying on the ground, making noises. They just couldn't figure out what was going on. They believed it was on the spectrum, and doctors, they were trying to do all these different things. Nothing was working. And one day the parents decided to, you know what? Enough with trying to fix, figure out, go outsource. And they just started to do what their child was doing. When they were rolling on the floor making noises, they joined them. Okay, we're going to roll on the floor, not to mimic, but to just to, again, meet them where they're at. Long story short is that basically it transformed this child, and they would say that he actually moved out of autism, moved out of the spectrum from that, because, and again, the ideology around that is that they stopped trying to fix, again, because a child can feel that you're trying to fix me, something's wrong with me. I mean, that's a program many people have, even if you're not on the spectrum, right? Something's wrong with me, you need to fix something. Our world just tells you that you need, fear mongering, and something's wrong with you, you need to fix this, you need this new product, you need this new thing. And they really just said enough's enough, and they just decided to meet the kid literally by what they were doing, how they were acting. And what that showed is that the kid, there's something wrong with you, we're here with you, we're just going to be with you. And Steve, your stories also implemented all that, just being with people, and how that can actually transform more than trying to fix,
yeah.
solve. How do we feel most love? By someone just being there, ultimately, first and foremost. And so I thought that story was so profound and powerful, and it reminds us the simplicity of just being together. And if you didn't feel like anything was wrong with you, and you felt like you could be next to someone and they didn't see anything wrong with you, not saying we can't always self-improve, there's a place and space to do that out of love, but not fear. That is what we all really truly seek, is to feel heard and seen, no matter our quirks and differences. And to tie this all together, Steve, that is what you do. Yes, it's basketball or a sport, but it doesn't matter how you play it. It's just you come together. Are you having fun? Right? Are you connecting? Are you trying something different on? Are you growing? If you're making the basket or not, doesn't matter. It matters of how do you feel, and how can we get ourselves to feel out of survival mode and in thrival mode, because play is also showing you out of survival and thrival. You would not be making time for play if you were being chased by a lion. And that's what our deeper minds are always doing. We're being chased by a lion if we're in survival mode. We get to slow that down, and we get to have some fun. And Steve, the work that you do is just so inspiring and impactful. And
Yeah.
any last words that you have for our audience before we head off today? So appreciate you.
Yeah, I do. Get involved. I'd love you to get involved with Hoop Camp. We're all over the nation. The 12th, we're down September. We're at Arizona State. We've also are double booked. We're at UNLV. But it's really simple. Hoop.camp. There's other places, but we're great. We're a nonprofit. We're all volunteers. We have no paid staff, which is really super cool. And I guess I would leave this. I know life is tricky. Whatever you're going through in your life, marriage, financial issues, children issues, job issues, spiritual issues, emotional issues, I get it. I promise you, if you will take some time to get involved and volunteer in a meaningful way, um, those challenges you go through will come better in perspective. They probably are not going to go away. but you might have some strength and some insight to be able to deal with them better. And I promise you that I have a testimony that I've seen it a million times in my own life, in the lives of my family, and the lives of others. So that's my promise to you. I guarantee it 100%. It'll help you whatever you're going through. We need to serve other people. Hoop.camp is the website. Thank you so much for having us and me on the show and telling our story. We do these all over the nation. If we're not where you're at, we will. I just talking to a guy today. We're going to the Ukraine. I think he's trying to set something. But anyways,
Thank you,
thank you
Steve,
so
so
much
much.
for
And
having
again,
me.
too, if this has inspired you in some way, I invite you all to take action because, right, we can be in our minds. I intend to do. Yeah, I love that. The some days. Don't be a someday. Go get involved. If it's not hoop camp, yeah, get
Someday,
involved with Slack. The kindness
someday.
you can do today, or showing up for you, and even asking yourself, where am I still in survival mode, and what am I doing to get out of there? Because you are here to live a life of fulfillment and of purpose and of passion. Steve, you're a mirror to show us what's possible when you get out of your own way and your own limitations and you grow something into something so profound for the world. So I ask you that are listening, what stood out to me today during this I call activation, because I feel super activated with what Steve shared today. What are we
Yep,
going to do?
let's
Get
do
out of
it.
your someday survival, get into your thrival, and now. The now is all we have, this present moment. What are you going to do with it? And we will end with that. Ask it to yourself. Let the questions and answers come through, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Steve.
Coach Garrity loves you. See ya.